everybody. Welcome to another episode of Amazon Legends. And today I have a guest that I'm so glad he accepted to come on board and give us his story, because he's the first client that I started with when I started Argometrics after being a seller for years. And I thought, well, I'm going to now offer everything I learned to other companies. And Andy was kind enough to put his trust in me, and then it's now how many years, Andy? It's almost 9 years, right?
Is it really? Yeah, boy, time flies.
Yeah. So we have Andy Heck. Andy is the president and CEO of Alpine House. Alpine House is a retailer. They have multiple locations. He'll tell you all about what Alpine House does in a minute, but he's a great example of how a company transitions from being in one type of business, and in Andy's case, a retailer, a true retailer, to also doing business online and leveraging Amazon. So with that, Andy, tell us about Alpine House and you and your passions and history of the company and how you got to be on Amazon.
Oh, sure. Well, we're a family business started by my dad. We started as a ski shop, and then over the years we got into different recreational products. So currently we sell RVs and boats, swimming pools. We still have our ski shops, hot tubs. So a little bit of everything outdoor recreation. Most of our stores are in the capital region of New York, around Albany area. Our headquarters is Amsterdam. And then we have a couple stores, one store downstate and one store in northern New Jersey. So yeah, that's kind of what our current mix. So then, how do we get into Amazon is what you want to know next?
Yeah. So one little important point is you basically carry different brands, right? It's not your own branded products, but you simply are distributors. You have direct relationship, and you buy and then carry these different brands, right?
Sure. Yeah. So, being, really like normal retail, that's exactly it. We have different products and different brands in every area. And at the time when you and I connected way back when through one of our mutual business networks, when you reached out, we were feeling a little pain point because we were trying to sell online with our own website. And, early on we did okay. And then things were challenging as just the internet everybody was everywhere. And obviously Amazon was growing so much. So when you said, hey, we have an idea, I've got an idea, here's what's worked for me. What do you think? So we were happy to jump in and with both feet and kind of test the waters.
Yeah. So tell us about how that starting played, because I remember the process you went through, because it was first to who's going to do this, right? You tried to hire, and tell us about that, because this is a big deal. Everybody wants to do things, but you need a team.
Well, I think exactly. And I think for us, like a lot of retailers, we were just picking stuff off the showroom floor and then shipping it out. That was kind of our website plan. And then as we worked internally and worked with you, the plan became we needed kind of a separate department manned by people who are not part of the normal retail operations to just focus on this. Strategically, we could do some buying for the whole company. It would allow us maybe to bring in extra products that normally we wouldn't carry, because if we could also sell it online, it meant that we could increase potentially our buying power, or and just also test some things that maybe we hadn't tried before. So that's kind of how we approached it. So having the standalone was key. Learning what we could sell on Amazon, what we couldn't, was key. And then learning also, if it wasn't just about, pounding your chest of, hey, certain products, have a lot more bravado, and people are like, hey, I sold this online. But really, it's just about finding the products that you can do well with online. It doesn't have to be something overly sexy. It's just something that people want to go on and buy and need the convenience.
Yeah, I remember it was about research, right? You were trying to figure out what would be, and some things that you would never sell in the store actually could do very well online. I remember.
Absolutely, yeah. And what we found is there's certain items that people do. They want to come to the store and they want to see it, they want to touch it, and they want to talk to people about it. But then there's other products that are almost like, sometimes more of a commodity that, like, I need it, I don't feel like getting in the car to go get it. I'm just going to buy it online. And so, we knew we were losing some of those sales because customers weren't coming in for some of those. Maybe we were selling them when they were in the store, but in the middle of, say, on the ski side, middle of ski season, if it's an upstate New York winter night and it's 10 degrees and the wind's blowing, maybe they're not coming in their car after work. So now they can get online and order that product and have it for the weekend to go skiing. I think that's what the success is, what we found. They're trying to figure out what are those products that are easily shippable, what's allowed by our vendors, and really, it's a moving target, as we all know, right? It's changing all the time.
Nothing is static.
Nothing static, right?
And the other thing is, this is always an approach, I guess, and some people want to do it, some people don't. FBA versus FBM, because on your website, when you receive orders, you have to do the fulfillment, the customer service. And what was your approach to utilizing Amazon fulfillment versus doing it yourself?
Well, I think, what we learned, and obviously from your advice was, especially with how many people are Prime nowadays, and people want it quick and they want the shipping, and in order to really keep the 5-star ratings, shipping it to the warehouses so you can get on the buy box with Amazon was key. And then not having to worry about that. So you just have to build it into your margins and figure that all out. And then also, the inventory is accurate, because when you're shipping to Amazon, it's there, they know it. It's loaded, it's loaded in their system, and our system, we know what's there all the time. And it just makes the whole process pretty much seamless.
So you use the FBA service rather than ship it yourself, and you recommend that to others?
Yeah, I would. I think it's challenging, the nice part about it is if you have, especially in our case, maybe if you have a lot of people or something like that, it never shuts down. But in our case, with people and stuff like that, we never have to worry, because if we have stuff at Amazon, it's always happening, where if we had somebody call in sick or something's going on, or a vacation, and somebody places an order and it's not shipped out, you get dinged from that. And so I think, it's customer service is so critical with the online experience, and especially that's what Amazon certainly thrives on.
Yeah, you just said the key word. It's the customer experience. That's really what Amazon is selling. And of course, that means all the sellers have to meet the same kind of standards that Amazon expects.
Right.
Otherwise, they penalize you, right?
Yeah, that is true. Right.
So at the beginning, I remember like yesterday, you had to actually designate space and design the space in a certain way. Tell us about, because people don't really anticipate those things, and when you start doing things, so tell us about those days.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. It was kind of funny because we called it kind of our secret laboratory, where we had it, carved out a piece of the building we weren't using before, and nobody really knew even what was going on back there. And so, we got some computers and got some storage space, and just went to town, and so that we could, bring stuff in and then ship it back out, and then sometimes, depending on the time of the year, because, you don't have everything sitting in the warehouse at times of year it's not selling. So you have to really understand when you need to get it to Amazon. And then also, if it doesn't sell, when you need to get it back, so it's not tying up warehouse space. And so we built that out. It was great, and seasonally, like when we get really busy, like, the ski part of the business is our busiest part. So as right now through the holidays, as really we try to get stuff to Amazon, sometimes we need some extra help, but at least now we can send help over to the Amazon team versus just by committee before we really had a true online platform.
Mm-hmm. So how many people do you have working actively on Amazon? Amazon may not be their only work, but how many people are usually involved, and what are those roles?
Currently, because we're so dialed in, we have one full-time person on Amazon, and then they get support as needed. She does from the other people at the other business lines, whether it's help from ordering from the different divisions, whether it's ski, pool, boat. She leans on those people to say, hey, I'm putting an order together, or I need some of this stuff, so they kind of work that. And then, like I said, the shipping side of it. Then when we have bulk orders in, we just know ahead of time, we plan in accordance. And this is what we really learned over the years is we can staff it according to what the peaks and valleys are. So if all of a sudden we know we have a big order coming in, she requests extra staffing, we can send people over that are experienced helping her. And so typically, we might have we might have a week where she's working solo, and then we might have a week where we have 2 or 3 people in there working. So it works out really good. And and it's a trial and error over the years for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot really prepare for everything, right? Because it's always changing. Plus, Amazon is also changing the rules all the time. So
Right. And with us, what we found is, which vendors we're going to use and stuff like that. So when you do a lot with certain vendors, it's a lot easier because you're not handling as many products. Maybe you're handling a lot of volume, but it's it might be just one product from a vendor, so it's a lot easier to process because you get a bunch of them in. It's one vendor shipment, and it's easier. But that the challenge that we continually face is, Amazon wants to go direct sometimes. So, that it's a third party selling marketplace until it's not at times, because then it's the Amazon marketplace, right? For themselves. And then we have some of our vendors, which ultimately they decide just to cut us out and go direct with Amazon and cut us as a retailer out. So that's the moving target part of it. And which is fine. So then we just keep chasing the next product, because that's kind of what happens in retail anyways, as you see, right? With whether it's chain stores or whatever, when the brand wants to cut out the retailer and go direct, eventually the retailers find different products, and that's kind of like the cycle.
Yeah. I mean, I work with brands mainly because they don't want any competition.
Right.
They don't want to play the buy box process. So what they do is always the same. They have vested interest in the success of the product, but retailers are simply looking for revenue sources. So they look at how much money it's making, and first of all, if they are authorized to sell it, and if so, then how much it's making. And that's really where the loyalty is. So it's a totally different approach. And also the Amazon environment is designed to attract more and more brands to come directly. But some brands don't want to do that. It's, they have a supply chain, they have great relationships, so it's a mix. But it's a totally different approach for retailers than brands.
Yeah, exactly. We have some brands that we carry that do no business on Amazon at all, period. And we have other brands, like I said, that want to go direct with Amazon and cut us out. So it's everything in between, and then some brands embrace it as long as we follow their policies and make sure that the brand is not lowered in esteem, by selling low and, keeping the brand promise alive. So, there's MAP pricing and different things that we have to abide by. So, and there's, it's different retailers will play games, but a lot of these companies now are very sophisticated to follow that, make sure that people are doing everything on the up and up.
Yeah. So tell us about some of the crises that you experienced and what was the reason and how you dealt with it.
Crisis in like just recent memory, like the COVID crisis you're talking?
No, I mean Amazon, like.
Oh, Amazon?
Yeah, fabricated. I call them fabricated because Amazon policies, suddenly you get the email, you're selling.
Well, I think we've had a couple of cases when I say about brands, we place a big order and then a brand changes their opinion that they don't want to allow third-party sellers anymore. And so now we have this big order and then they tell us we can't sell on Amazon anymore. And so it's been more of a case of probably some brands we've been dealing with than Amazon itself. There's been some challenge with Amazon, with warehousing and things like that, where as they've grown, there's been some challenges, but they've kind of worked them out. And I would say last year, some of the crisis was, right, with COVID going on, it became a new crisis because they only wanted essential stuff kind of in their warehouses and to make sure that what was being delivered was essential. So all of a sudden, for a period of time, recreational related things were not essential. So like we're not shipping anything for a while, which we get, but at the same time, customers didn't want to come to stores, and especially us being in New York, we weren't even open. So they were looking for ways to get product and they couldn't even get it from Amazon. So it was interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah. I remember also something when you started talking about customers coming into the store being closed, it reminded me the year we started, you had stocked up for the winter, for the season, of course, and then suddenly it wasn't cold.
Right, yeah.
Remember that time it wasn't cold, and you had all the stock, and then you flipped everything to Amazon, and you were selling the stuff that you intended for the store. So was that like a one-off, or does that happen from time?
Well, it's right. It can happen. Obviously, winters can be really good in the Northeast, or they can be, we don't get a lot of snow. And for us, or if it's a warmer or rainy, the mountains can make snow, but for the recreational skier, they want snow in the backyard and they want to play in the snow. And that's what drives them to buy. So we'll always sell a certain amount, but in a weak snow year, that becomes a challenge. And that's what's great about some of the products that we do sell on Amazon, because it's always snowing somewhere. Maybe it's not snowing here, but it's snowing somewhere,
Right.
So whether it's California or Utah, or even like families in Texas that are planning to go skiing, they buy their stuff on Amazon because they don't have a ski shop nearby. So it's helped from a diversification standpoint with certain products for sure.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about some of these peak times. I know your season is not necessarily the same as what other people experience, but you bottom line, you have the shopping season. It starts with Thanksgiving, and then also you have the Prime Day. So how do they impact your operation, and what are some things that you would recommend as best practices?
I think you just have to, everybody's got to kind of know their own trend of their products, and you have to be prepared. What we see is some of ours, people will buy ahead of the season, when it comes to the ski side. So when you look at November, December, and because skiing, when I say skiing, because that's, a big part of our Amazon business. And so some people are doing it to prepare for themselves, but other times it's also Christmas shopping, if somebody's got a hobby. So we kind of double dip on both. When you look at it that way, people are buying for Christmas presents or just to get ready for the season. And so typically, you get most people try to do that, starting in November, up, and then it picks up in pace as we head towards, Christmas kind of kicks off the true ski season for most recreational skiers. Once they get to Christmas week and the kids are on vacation and the holidays are happening, that's when they head out. So we just always want to be prepared. And then it's watch it closely as we go through that bubble of, all right, now it's midwinter, and what pricing strategies are you allowed to have, because season's winding down, but people still need stuff. But also you want to be able to clear out inventory and not carry it over. So that's the balance. And then for us, it picks up again with some of the boat accessories we sell and some of the camping supplies that we sell, because the same thing, then people start thinking about camping and boating, as we approach Memorial Day and then through 4th of July and such. So we follow the flow of a couple different peaks and valleys.
So would you say that you would need to allocate more resources in terms of man hours and the people based on how many items you carry on Amazon, or does it not matter?
I think the resource, a lot for us, it's always, it's twofold. One is because we're selling, as fulfilled by Amazon, the first step is we have to get all the product in, and we don't know when, we're not at the mercy of when some of that stuff comes in, because we order it ahead of the season, it comes when it comes. So that's the first step of having enough people to help unpack it and put it in our own inventory in the space that we built out. And then it's the timing of, all right, now it's go time to get it to Amazon, and then also get the help for that time. So it's like a couple step process. And then you just sit back and wait and watch and hope that it's selling, that's the fun part.
Do you ever had to bring back some of the inventory?
We do. There's ultimately some stuff that doesn't sell, or some, whether it's oddball stuff or whatever. So we'll bring it back because our stuff is so seasonal, and then try to discount it in the store, or potentially send it with some stuff the following season, depending on what it is.
So as far as setting goals, what would you, because to some people who have never done this before, and they are hearing Amazon all the time, and they want to start on Amazon, and they want to do what you're doing as far as buying, selling, what kind of goals would be realistic goals for them, and what would be the requirement in terms of inventory and other kind of infrastructure that they would need to have?
Yeah, I think, like for us, and I think it's part of the goals are you got to do a little bit of due diligence on analyzing kind of what kind of products you have are on there. If people aren't searching for it, even if you send a bunch of stuff, they're still not going to search for it. So you have to understand that there's a demand, and then kind of using some data, but then a little bit of crystal ball too, and a little confidence. And that's why we always look at stuff that what could we sell in the store also if it doesn't work on Amazon? So we have that, our, bet hedged a little bit. And then you learn, and then because we've been doing it so many years, we kind of, it's almost predictable what stuff does, from year to year, and we can start following the trends. I think the first year or two is always the most challenge because you don't know what to expect. So then you're setting those goals and buying, especially now with supply chain issues, right? People have to really, you have to plan in advance, because you can't sell what you don't have, and you have to understand when you have to order those things well in advance.
And the other question that everybody asks, so you don't know how something is going to perform. How much do you start with? How much do you buy? Is it hundreds of pieces, a small number of pieces? And how did you figure out?
And we just kind of go product by product, right? So it could be as simple as 10 of one item just to try it out. And it could be 100 of a different item, and I think it depends on what it is and, what our experience is for ultimately the consumer, how much consumer demand is for that product. What's the online presence? Where do they get it? Is it easily shipped? All those kind of things kind of go into our factor. And the pricing standpoint, because we always do, is it even worth our while? Because, right, Amazon takes a cut, there's a shipping cost. Then you have to look at what products are worth your while and where, are you protected from a pricing standpoint? You don't want to go through all the effort and then find out that you make zero margin on it. So you have to play that out.
Sure.
It's because it's partly a volume game, right? You have to do enough volume, and you have a little bit slimmer margin, but also overall, we look at it, we have a little bit less overhead on that side of the business, and it helps us a little bit on the other sides as well.
Do you go to Amazon first to do your research to figure out what to sell, or do you start with your suppliers to see what their products are and then go to Amazon, see how they would do?
Kind of both. We look at Amazon to see if it's on there, and then we kind of try to find out, are we allowed to sell it on there if it's not there already. If it's there already, then we try to get approval to sell on Amazon. And then we look at it, is there a MAP policy, like I said, for margin protection, stuff like that, so that we know that it's worth stepping up to. And then we also look at the competition are there any other, depending on the line of business, are there any other websites outside of Amazon where people don't really go to Amazon, even though it's on Amazon? Are they more apt to go to other websites or other retailers than go to Amazon? Because, even though Amazon sells everything, there's still some things that people don't go to Amazon for when don't even think about, so I think that's what we try to put our arms around it. It's sometimes it's unscientific, it's not 100% scientific, but you try to gather as much information as you can, and then go to town with your with data and gut.
Do you ever use any one of those tools that will tell you, how many pieces an item is selling per month? You can pretty much go on any listing and then pull it up. Do you ever use those for your decision making?
We look at a little bit, but ours being so seasonal, it's more of a challenge because it's not like a product that's always repetitive. It's, because it's such peak and valleys, and every season falls a little bit different, so, and then we find out each year, sometimes our competition online is a little bit different. And that's what I said, that's one of the surprises all the time, right? So this year we're the only supplier, they're only one retailer, and then next year all of a sudden, oh my gosh, there's 20 more selling the same thing. How'd that happen?
Yeah, I mean, that's the challenge with the seasonal stuff, because you don't know, you have no historical data.
But as we look at it, it's not everything's allowed to be sold, and not everything makes sense. But at the end of the day, the volume we were able to get out of it, we could never do this on our own website because people just don't, right? They say Amazon is almost like a search website now. People go there instinctively, just to buy stuff. It's just easy. So it's one of those deals. If you can't beat them, join them, so to speak, right? And and ride it while you can.
Well, there's also collaboration between these big tech companies. Like, for example, Amazon serves the search results for all product searches on Google. Google doesn't do the work. Google, they index it, but what Google indexes is one thing. But what Google shows as search results, it's primarily driven by Amazon. And so you've got to be on Amazon as a brand, because that's what people are going to see. Yeah. So as far as the whole Amazon experience, so now you coming up to almost a decade of experience. So during that time, have you ever found yourself in a situation where you say, why the hell did I do this? You know, it's not worth it or anything like that?
No, we've enjoyed it. We just get frustrated because we wish more of our brand partners would support us and allow us to do it and do it right. But some of them don't understand, or like you said, the greedy part, they just want to control their brand themselves. But that's life, you know. It's you know, as entrepreneurs, you have to understand it's not easy, and you have to go after it and find the avenues and find every little angle you can, right? That's the name of the game.
Yeah. I mean, that this is always a situation, you know, they call it parallel trading, you know.
Right.
You've got one group of people working in a brand that we don't want any discounts, we don't want anything, we want to sell it, you know, directly or whatever, only, you know, they want to control the supply to maintain high prices. And then you got another group that's just encouraging their resellers to sell as much as possible, because they need their supply chain to sell their entire line of products. They can't just be running on one or two where they want to maintain the price high, and you know, because they're going to need the resellers to sell everything else. So they start compromising. Yeah, that's a big challenge. So now, having done this for a while, how much time did it take you to get return on your investment of starting this Amazon business, to really start, you know, seeing results where they are consistent, steady, and makes money?
I would say the second year. You know, the first year with all the startup and then, you know, as you remember, we had months of planning, of work, of you know, using you as a consultant and spending time to build it all out and build the playbook and get ready. That you have no income coming in, and then so then the first season, you know, then you finally start getting some stuff coming in. So at year two for us, luckily, I think started put us in the black already on the Amazon, and then every year from that, we just kind of have it kind of dialed in. You know, it's kind of a predictable you know, amount, which is good.
Yeah. I mean, it's so that's what I usually tell people. So you don't expect anything for about 6 months. But really, you have to give it a year to really understand what can be accomplished, and then start really scaling it from that point on.
And I think that especially the type of industries we're in, people try to do their own website or this or that, or try to do stuff, or they look at the commitment, but they want the return today. They're not looking at long term, so it scares them off. You know, I think it's part of the deal.
Yeah. So this is always the case. So where do you see Alpenhaus now as far as the Amazon operation and as a company? But give us a perspective, like, for example, when you started, how much of the business was coming as a percentage of the overall business? How much was coming from Amazon, and where is it today, and how did it grow?
As a percentage, it really hasn't grown. It's just become like a stable part of what we can rely on, and it's probably because, like I said, we get 10 products to sell, and then the next year there's 10 products we can't sell. So, but we find those, so we make money on it, which is good. And that's what we kind of see. It's a changing game, you know. And I think that, like, as we try to figure out going forward, what's the future of Amazon with third-party sellers like us? I'm not really sure. You know, that's the continual challenge. But I think there's always going to be products, especially upstarts, because the upstarts need you. They don't understand retail as much. So that's kind of what we're always scouting and saying, all right, what's the next brand that maybe has enough recognition that people will search it online, but they don't have the distribution right, or the flex or power maybe to do stuff. So I think that's what we're looking at. It's continually is, what are the next ones? You have to really kind of be visionary and always ride what you have, but also be looking who's next, you know?
And as far as growing the Amazon operation, also, I remember our conversations, you didn't really want it to like grow so far that it would start interfering. You wanted to have it steady revenue.
Yeah, we didn't want to, you know, right. And we wanted to make it, you know, help support what we were doing in the stores. So, you know, pretty much everything that we sell is products that we would also be able to sell in the stores, which is really, like I said earlier, has worked out well for us because we were able to buy more, and maybe, you know, and also then, as we know, it sells on Amazon, right? We'll sell it, let's put it on the floor, and lo and behold, some of this stuff sells on the floor now, so we're able to have that maybe we wouldn't have taken a chance before, you know, because we sell it on Amazon. And that's the benefit, I think, from a retail perspective, to have more supply, and then so it can be either retail or Amazon, which works out great.
Mhm.
And I think, you know, what we've seen is, like when you talk back to a snowy winter, we had one even a couple of years ago that was not super snowy again, and it was more of a challenge on the ski side, where we had you know, we had a month where we did more on Amazon than any of our 2 brick and mortars. So when you talk about, you know, where you got, who would have ever imagined, you know, that one employee based department with a little bit of help could sell more technically than our brick and mortar stores. And that happens sometimes, you know, so that's exciting, you know.
Yeah. I mean, that's and also it can go as far as you want it to go if you want it. With a store, you have certain limitations, right?
Right. And I think, you know, for retailers, you know, some of the opportunity is things that people search for, but maybe the brand name isn't as much. So there's opportunity, I think, for some private label type stuff and things like that, where people are just looking for some of those commodities and looking for a decent price and different things. So there's some products we sell, camping supplies, or even on the ski side of supplies, where people just want something. They're not really brand specific, and they don't even think of a brand when they think of some of these products. So that's where you can go, where, like I said, everybody else is boasting, hey, I sold this pair of $1,000 skis, I sold 10 pairs, you know, online, and meanwhile we're selling, you know, 100 of something else, and we're not even really even beating our chests about it, because it's under the radar, you know.
Yeah, and it's always better that way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you ever advertise on Amazon? Did you ever use PPC for some of the listings? It's not your product, so usually you shouldn't need to, but did you ever try that?
We have not, but we're aware of that, and it's in the back of our mind, depending on, like I said, if there's certain products now that maybe aren't as, there's not the brand recognition. And I think that's like where we might be headed with the next steps, is to do some of that advertising and push some of these products that people just need, but they don't even know who makes them, you know, so to speak.
Yeah, you know, I'm working with these brands, and some of them I've seen 1 or 2 deals being cut with. These are small brands, like you mentioned. They are just coming up with it, and they don't really understand Amazon much, but they really don't have such a vast, you know, supply chain network either. So they're cutting these deals that some of the distributors they have, they actually run the Amazon operation for the brand. It's part of the whoever has the seller account, but they are splitting advertising costs and things like that. So that's one thing that I've seen being done. The other thing that I've seen is, let's say, for example, again, these are not for big brands. These are smaller brands that you buy. There's no restriction on it. You are fully authorized to sell it, and you bought inventory, and it's just not moving as fast as you would like. And you run the PPC campaign. As long as there's enough margin, then you can float more inventory that way. So those are things that I've seen being done, but it all comes down to the numbers. You know, what is your revenue model? How much? What is the percentage that you will take home after running the PPC? Because PPC will bleed you for a while until you optimize the campaign, and then afterwards, you know, you'll be able to manage it much more optimal.
True.
Things are done. So, what would be like a list of do's and don'ts for companies that are doing what you are doing? They are not selling their own items, but they are resellers, distributors, or retailers that want to do this. What are some do's and what are some don'ts? Share with us.
Well, I would say, just from some of the stuff we talked earlier, the do is you kind of have to really designate somebody specific. It can't just be a part-time role. It's got to be somebody that's really dedicated to it, so that you always have your eyes, you know, and hands around at all times. I think really taking the time to make sure you have everything in place before you start conducting business. we've learned packaging is key because, that's part of, some of the things with Amazon with customer experience. You want to make sure the product is not damaged, it's good quality. And so early on, we had some vendors who maybe shipped us stuff that the packaging wasn't as good or it got damaged in shipping, stuff like that. So we've had to change some stuff or even repackage stuff. And I think that's important. And we found from a viability standpoint, from a do is stuff that's really easily shipped and warehoused from our standpoint is a lot easier than stuff that's more complex or heavier, especially because, the shipping and the challenges of boxing and everything like that. So those are some of the do's. And I think also, just planning in advance the inventory that you need, obviously, like we talked about, and the don'ts are, don't neglect if you get Amazon reviews or anything like that, you have to react quick. So I think that's a don't and a do. So if you have an inquiry from a customer, don't ignore it. Get back to them right away. We email every customer or contact them anytime we get any inquiry, and it's amazing. So much so that some customers have, oh my gosh, you're the best. Well, and they've even come to call up or shop our store directly versus going Amazon, and that's big. So the communication is key. Customers, if they have an issue, want to be responded, and Amazon wants to make sure you respond.
Yeah.
So that's important.
Yeah. I mean, it's they track, right? They have a metric, how many emails you received and responded within 24 hours, over 24 hours. So you are being tracked, and that's what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think from us, so by learning all those things, and I think you have to always learn from your mistakes or where the errors are or where the issues could arise, so that you can eliminate them in advance. And I think that's what we've continually worked on is like, all right, this happened. Whose fault was it? How did it happen? Sometimes it's nobody's fault. Things just happen, right? But if there's something you can control, then we just want to make sure we put a process in so it doesn't happen again. And I think that's made us better.
Yeah. I mean, this is Amazon's business strategy always is be prepared. And when you get into some kind of a problem and then your account gets suspended, they always ask you to submit a plan of action. And in the plan of action, they say, tell us what happened and why it happened. Tell us what you're doing to fix it, and tell us what you're doing so that it doesn't happen again in the future. So they don't want the same problem coming back over and over. And a lot of the times they accept the answers to question 1 and 2. Okay, fine. We understand, but we're not satisfied with your answer about how you're going to avoid it in the future. This can happen again. Mm-hmm. So it's always being preemptive. So as a third-party seller, if you look at all the Amazon policies that govern how you operate, can you see one thing that you would like changed?
I don't know. We've lived with it for so long now. Nothing that comes to mind off the top of my head that I can think of.
But what I hear most, your real restriction is not necessarily Amazon, but it's the brands, right?
True. That, in our world, that's 100% what it is. It's, we've figured out the whole Amazon thing pretty good. So working with Amazon, we have that all dialed in, but it's really working with and they changed some stuff with some policies and some warehouse and where to ship and that, but it's pretty good, pretty computerized. But our issue is always, the last few years has been more about dealing with the brands than Amazon.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, this is a totally different perspective, because when I talk to companies, the CEOs, they're always talking about promoting their items and how to go about doing it. And your perspective is very valuable, because it's a huge part of the Amazon business, people reselling, and it's very valuable. So what I heard, if I can summarize, you tell me if this is accurate, in this order. First, pick the right items in terms of any restrictions by brands and whether or not they will make money, right? That's the first one. Absolutely. Second, plan in advance as much as possible for your inventory and be prepared for the unexpected situations. That means you may buy too much or you may buy too little.
Mm-hmm. True.
And the third, you got to have somebody who focuses on this. It can't be a side job. They have to take ownership, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a key.
Okay, so this is extremely valuable. Well, thank you so much, Andy. This is I've been, you know how I feel. We started together, and I'm so happy that you're still doing it after almost 10 years. And clearly, you know exactly what to do, and you're operating very well. So I wish you a lot of luck, and I'm sure you'll be here another 10 years from today.
Yeah.
You'll be doing it successfully. Thank you again, and anybody wants to visit any one of the Alpine House stores, they are upstate New York mostly. They can come to your website and find out where it is.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Yep. Thank you, Nick.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.